Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. Recording this, of course, on a Wednesday, a little bit a day late this week. My apologies for that. Um, as we discuss the world of sports and pop culture, this is going to be all, basically all NBA episode. A lot going on in the NBA. Some just, you some game changing league, possibly conference and league changing circumstances that have occurred in the last 36 hours. Um, but we're going to begin though with last night, with two excellent games in regards to what transpired in OKC and also in Cleveland. We'll begin with the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers last night advanced to their second straight conference finals behind a brilliant performance by Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers just completely took apart Cleveland in this series, winning 4-1. They finished the season against Cleveland 5-0 against Cleveland at Cleveland. Cleveland was 36-5 against everybody else at home, or 36-0. Well, Cleveland was 36, had a dominant record at home against everybody else, but the Indiana Pacers, they could not beat the Indiana Pacers at home this year. I believe they were 31-5 versus everybody else. I would have to look up their record, but the point is the Pacers own Cleveland at Cleveland. This turned out to be a bad matchup for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I understand, and I'll get to the Cleveland part in a second, but to me, this was about the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers in their last 39 games are 28, have been 28-11, including the playoffs, and they're 8-2 in the playoffs. They've been the best team, the most consistent and best team in the playoffs. They've dominated both series, winning 4-1 against Milwaukee and winning 4-1 against Cleveland. Now, again, there have been some injuries. The Damian Lillard injury, of course, Cleveland had a couple guys nicked up, and especially in that game too. But I want to tell you right here, right now, if everybody was healthy, from those respective teams, Milwaukee and Cleveland, Indiana Pacers still win those series. Maybe they win it in 6 games. Neither one of those series will go into 7 games. Maybe let's say Milwaukee can get one extra game. Probably should have got a 6 game, consider that collapse they had in game 5. And let's say Cleveland gets an extra game with Garland being healthy and what have you, and having all their people in game 2. Okay, I'll give you that. But neither one of those teams would beat Indiana in those series. Indiana was clearly the better team in those series. Indiana right now, again, is playing as well as any team in the playoffs have been. Like I said, have been the best team in the playoffs. Remember, Indiana, since January 1st, there are only 3 teams that have 40 or more wins. Okay. OKC, Boston, and Indiana. That is the list. Indiana at the end of the season, were a legit top 5 basketball team. The only teams in the last 29 games of the season, post All-Star break, that played as well as Indiana. You had OKC, Boston, Cleveland, and Golden State. That's the list. That's it. Those are the only teams that played on the same level as Indiana this season. And I know what happens is, we get caught up in got caught up in a lot in the second half of the season. You had the Luka trade, of course, Golden State and Celtics. Jimmy Butler gets traded. The Lakers are all on television every night, ESPN. A lot, you had a lot of stuff going, OKC on the rise. Could they win 70 games? So there were a lot of storylines that completely overshadowed. Could Boston repeat? Of course, there were a lot of storylines that completely overshadowed a Indiana team that was just getting better and better and better. They finished, again, those last 29 games, they finished with the seventh best defensive rating. They were not even dominant offensively. They've been unbelievable offensively in the playoffs this year. in the playoffs so far. But offensively, those last 29 games, they had like an offensive rating of like 13. They were not a dominant offensive basketball team those last 29 games. But what changed, and this is why you can't compare them to what they were last year, other than Halliburton being healthy. They are a significantly better defensive team this year, this season in the playoffs than they were last season. That's pure and simple. That's just a fact. And I'm telling you right now that whoever they play, and it's seemingly going to be the New York Knicks. Again, we'll have another story on our hands if it's not the Knicks. That will be. We'll talk plenty about that series. That will be a tremendous classic series. That is a toss-up series. If you are an Indiana Pacers fan, you should absolutely feel like you can get to the NBA Finals. You really should. You absolutely have the right to feel like you will get to the NBA Finals. You can get to the NBA Finals. They've proven that they can win anywhere. You close a series out on the road. That's big time. Um, you've gone through Giannis. Now you've gone through Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, Mobley. All three guys will be on All NBA teams this season when that list comes out. So congratulations to the Indiana Pacers again. A balanced team, a great offensive team, an improved defensive team. Halliburton has elevated to a legit top 15, top 20 player. He's a top 20 player. He may be getting closer to even a top 15 player by the time these playoffs are over. He has been great in these playoffs. Has made in postseason. Has made big shot after big shot. They have a lot of balance on that team. They're a deep team. And remember, they were in the conference finals last year. Again, now last season, people thought it was a fluke. They got a lot of injury fortune leading up to the conference finals until that luck ran out on them, and they had players hurt against Boston in the conference finals where they were taken out by the Celtics. But that team, this is a very, very good basketball team. They are, and of course, Rick Carlisle someday will be in the Hall of Fame as a coach. He's a tremendous coach. He's a great offensive coach, as we all know. Can be hard on his players. Can be, ask Luka Doncic. But you cannot question this guy, his coaching ability whatsoever. Has won everywhere he's been. Of course, won a championship in Dallas. Went to the conference finals. This would be his fourth conference finals appearance in Indiana. Of course, he was not his fourth conference finals appearance. Yeah, I think it's his third. He wasn't 13, 14. No, he wasn't the coach in 13, 14 when they went back to back conference finals appearances. He was there. Of course, he was fired after they went to the conference finals in 2003. Back in three, and then of course Larry Brown came in and won a championship in 04. So this is Carlisle's third conference finals appearance. Third conference finals appearance as a coach, as a head coach in Indiana. He's a tremendous coach. So I really like this team a lot. This is a fearless team. This is a fearless team. They have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They have not been getting talked about a lot as in comparison to some of the other storylines. Since some other storylines around the league, but I don't think they care. I think they don't mind going under the radar. No, Carlisle. Actually, no. So let me correct that. Carlisle, as a coach of the Indiana Pacers, 03, 07, he went to the conference finals in. Yeah, he went to conference finals in 2000 and went to conference finals 2004 season where they lost to Larry Brown in 6 games. So went to conference finals as an Indiana head coach. this will be his second time in the conference finals as the Indiana head coach. Went there multiple times as Dallas's coach in '06, in 2011, in 2011. Of course, won that championship in 2011. So, you know, he's done it again. Back with Indiana, this is a perfect spot for him. An ideal spot for him. He can craft a team. This is his kind of team. This is a tough, mentally tough team. They are a no nonsense team that really play beautiful basketball offensively. They can shoot the ball, passing. They're going to be a tough out for whoever. For the Knicks, if they get to the finals, you are going to have to earn a win to beat the Indiana Pacers. This is a very, very good team, and they certainly deserve to be in their second straight Eastern Conference Finals. The last, so the last nine, so well, they're not the last nine Celtic teams. So they joined a list of Eastern Conference teams in the last decade that have gone to back-to-back conference finals. Of course, LeBron's Cavaliers from 2014 to 2018 with four straight. And of course, you've had Boston had three straight, had multiple times where they went to conference finals back-to-back years, went 17 and 18, lost to Cleveland both years. And of course, Boston had up until this year had gone, and still not dead yet, but Boston up until this year had gone from 22 to 24, 3 straight years in the conference finals. So it's not easy. Listen, that is not a small feat to get to back-to-back, to get to a conference finals, let alone back-to-back conference finals. I don't care how bad the East Conference has been. Go ask the Clippers how hard it is to get to a conference finals. Go ask the Charlotte Hornets how hard it is to get to a conference finals. Go ask the Washington Wizards how hard it is to get to the conference finals. It is nothing to sneeze at getting to a conference finals. So go ask the Knicks. Now, about time you hear this podcast, the Knicks probably will be in the conference finals for the first time since 2000. But it's been 25 years since the Knicks went to a conference finals. It is not easy. So that is a big time season from the Indiana Pacers. As far as the Cleveland Cavaliers go, I've been getting a lot of comparisons to the Atlanta Hawks of 2015 that won 60 games and got swept by LeBron, destroyed by LeBron in Cleveland that year. As LeBron, took a injury riddled Cleveland Cavalier team with no Kevin Love, and of course, Kyrie Irving got hurt in Game 1 of that finals, and took him to Golden State six games that year. They're much better than those Atlanta Hawks. I'm sorry, that Hawk team was a fluke year. The Eastern Conference was not very good that year. So caught lightning in a bottle, and those Hawks teams were never the same after that, up until you got to get all the way up until the Trae Young era where they went to the conference finals in 2021, and that's looking like a fluke, right? Ever since then, they haven't been relevant that much at all themselves. But Cleveland should be disappointed not getting at least to the conference finals. I don't think anybody would have, if they get to the conference finals and lose to Boston, I don't think people would go crazy. Or even lose to the Knicks. The way the Knicks are playing right now, I don't think you could go crazy as a Cleveland fan. Again, it's not easy getting to the conference finals. Losing in 5 games is rough as a 64-win team, as a team who had 3 different winning streaks, 3 different double-digit winning streaks, as a team that started out the season 15-0. It's rough. I mean, that's a tough and bitter pill to swallow to say the least. And when you have a talented roster like the Ringer had 4 guys that were in the top 50 players in the Ringer top 100 in terms of Mitchell Mobley, Garland, DeAndre Hunter. And they had, Mitchell Mobley and Garland were in the top like 32. So this was a talented team. They had a lot of depth. They could score. They were fun to watch, passing, shooting the ball. But there was always something about them that I just, I just was never all in on Cleveland this year. I just wasn't. I just never. I told you, having a 6-3, having the history of the league has not fared well when it comes to undersized guards leading teams to championships. It only has happened like twice. You got Steph Curry and Isaiah Thomas. That's the list of guys 6'3" or under to lead a team to a championship. It's hard enough to get to a finals with a small guard. I mean, that you have to give. That's why Allen Iverson deserves a hell of a ton of credit. I mean, these guys like 6 foot and took a team to the finals back in 2001. It doesn't happen. And what you saw with Cleveland, what you're hearing about Cleveland, when you read some of the stuff, you're hearing, lack. What I'm hearing is lack of toughness. Um, I'm not sure I'm buying that narrative. Again, this was a couple things can be true. They should be certainly there's major disappointment for the Cavaliers, but I'll say this: it those injuries in Game 2 against the Pacers, that was like that is hard to overcome. You lose a game because of injuries in Game 2. Um, Garland was not right the entire series. That I mean, he'll probably have, he probably will have surgery in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised. And Donovan Mitchell, is worn down at the end of the series. I mean, and give Donovan Mitchell all the credit in the world. He played his ass off. Like like Mitchell. Mitchell was spectacular in that series. Like you can't considering the circumstances, you can't play better than Donovan Mitchell in the way he played in that series. Like he carried that team, but it was like he could only do so much again against an Indiana team that again was playing some of the best basketball in the league, So it was a combination of a lot of things that went wrong. Combination of a lot of things that went wrong for Cleveland. I like Cleveland's going to have they're going to have some decisions to make from a financial standpoint. Like this second apron is going to mess a lot of teams up, including the Celtics, and we'll get to the Celtics situation as their fortunes changed, dramatically, of course, on Tuesday. Excuse me, on Monday night. But I don't think if you're Cleveland, yeah, it's a disappointment, but I can't sit up here and call it like a choke job, or I can't sit up here and say that this is one of the biggest um, failures. This is a colossal failure of a team that, again, look at the preseason odds, right? And I'll talk more about that later on. The preseason odds had Cleveland preseason odds to win a championship. They were not even, they were plus 5,000. Like they were not even in the top. You had, I can list a number of teams that were ahead of Cleveland as far as title odds. They had the, what, one, two, they were like at the middle, bottom half, not bottom half, but they weren't even close. They had plus, their over under this year was 48. 48 wins. That was the over under. The 48 wins. Like the Pelicans had better title odds than Cleveland. Miami Heat had better title odds than Cleveland. There were at least 15, at least half the league had better title odds than Cleveland. Some of the teams that had worse title odds, like Sacramento, Orlando, Houston, the Spurs, Hawks, Bulls, Pistons. Those are the teams that had worse title odds than Cleveland. No one expected Cleveland to be anywhere near what they were this season. Like not even close. So I'm looking at them, and yeah, again, it's a disappointment. But listen to me. This is about the Indiana Pacers. This is all about the Indiana Pacers. Mitchell in this series, again, hard to play better. Mitchell in this series was 34-5, 4 assists. Again, 42% shooting, so wasn't efficient. He had to be a high volume player. He took, you know, in terms of field goal attempts, this is how much he took a 125 field goal attempts. The next closest guy, number two closest guy, was Max Strus with 57. This is where Evan Mobley. Now Evan Mobley did miss a game, so keep that in mind. But John Mitchell took like almost like twice as much as the next closest guy in terms of field goal attempts. He did not get a lot of help whatsoever. Of course, Garland missed the first couple games of this series. He wasn't right. So Mitchell had to carry this team, did what he could, but again, second straight year that he's kind of broke down physically in the playoffs. And again, they're gonna have a lot of question marks. They have a lot of questions to answer in the offseason in terms of who's gonna get paid. They're not gonna bring back their entire team. Ty Jerome is up, is going they're gonna pay him. Could they possibly might not be able to keep DeAndre Hunter. So they're gonna have now again, there's been some talk about possibly moving Garland as a possibility. But to me, the best thing that could happen to Cleveland as far as them improving is Evan Mobley becoming a 25 point per game scorer, becoming a legit 22 to 25 point per game scorer. That is the next level for him. I think he can do that. The Jason Tatum injury does keep them in the Eastern Conference title contention conversation. No one next year is running away with the East. No one. So that the East will be at the top will be kind of open, kind of wide open for about at least 4, maybe 5 or 6 teams, depending on the moves in the offseason. As far as the nightcap goes, great game in Oklahoma City. A coming of age win for the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are now, without question, the clear favorites, the absolute clear favorites to win the championship. They have the number one. They have the best title odds right now. By Vegas. That was a game where in the last 2 games, Oklahoma City has outscored Denver 63-37 in the fourth quarter. Here's what the game came down to me. We could talk about the brilliance of Jokic and SGA. I thought SGA was phenomenal in that game with just playing up just the control that he played under and just letting the game come to him. He made every right play as far as his decision making in that game. I really did. I really loved the SGA game last night. But here's what it came down to. Denver got 20 points from 5 players. Porter Jr., Westbrook, Brown, Watson, and Strawther. 20 points from 5 players. And Westbrook was awful in that game. I mean, some of the shots, awful in the game. It was a second straight bad performance for him. On the other hand, you had Holmgren and Hartenstein, 29 points. That's not including the rebounding and the defense that they provide. Now, again, I understand Joker had a big night. He's Joker. Like, he could do that. But that's the difference. Like, Oklahoma City, they have just so many more quality players, and they are so much deeper than Denver that it really has shown true these last couple of games. Like I said, in the fourth quarter, and Oklahoma City was, for the most part in this game was getting outplayed by Denver. But in terms of closing quarters, Oklahoma City closed quarters strong. They closed quarters better than Denver, and they frankly just completely just wore Denver down. They wore them down. And the two games where Joker has went crazy with 40 plus 40, yeah, he has 44 last night, 42 in game 1, I believe, 42 in game 1. Those are games that Oklahoma City should have won. Like Joker, SGA said it last night. One guy is not going to beat us. They absolutely threw away game 1. missed free throws, turnovers. They you know game mismanagement by Dagnall. So the quality, the depth factor has played a major role in this series. I mean, Caruso, like you think Denver wouldn't love a Alex Caruso on their team? Caruso he's been great in this series. You look at those their best their best 5 man and 4 man um, rotations. Caruso is at the top of almost all of those in terms of the plus and in terms of being in terms of the plus minus. He's in the mix of all those. It is not a coincidence. He's been a part of their best 4 and 5 man lineups in this series. And Denver right now, you look at Denver, Michael Porter Jr., you know, has basically playing with one arm out there with the bad shoulder. Westbrook has become, bad Westbrook. Um, Murray had a great third quarter, but still 10 for 27. You'll take 28 points on 27 shots. It was, Joker and just everybody else. I mean, Joker, Denver just did not have enough around Joker to beat this team. And I don't like it. Now, I will say this. If you're Oklahoma City, you don't want to mess around with a Nikola Jokic in a 7 game, and especially considering the fact that this series has been every other day since the series started. Um, that will not be the case between if there is a game 7. So they play tomorrow night. Game 7, if Denver wins, would be in Oklahoma City on Sunday. So they will get an extra day off. You don't want to mess around if you're Oklahoma City with a Joker with an extra day rest in a game 7. You just don't. You don't. They've been in a number of game 7s in the last in the Jamal in the Joker in the Jokic Jamal Murray era. They have been in a number of game 7s. So if you're Oklahoma City, you don't play with your food in this game. In this game 6, you already know that you can win there. Go out there, take care of business, and get ready for the Western Conference Finals. Before I get to the Knicks, we have to discuss what transpired with Jason Tatum on Monday night. He goes down with the Achilles. I thought it was an ankle. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was an ankle where he grabbed his foot. I've never seen anybody. I had never ever seen anybody react the way he reacted that tore their Achilles. So I immediately thought that this is just a badly twisted ankle. But as the night goes along, you start looking at more replays. It clearly become evident that it was a non-contact and that it was probably um, going to be something that he was not going to be able to recover from for the rest of this series. This injury, as these two teams are playing, as Boston and New York are playing as we speak, according to this podcast, this is an injury that has ramifications for not only the near future, but maybe for the foreseeable future in the Eastern Conference and maybe even in the rest of the NBA. You're talking about a top 5 player. You're talking about a guy who lived in the playoffs. Jason Tatum has done nothing but win. He came into the league as a rookie going to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2018. He's been in the conference finals 5 times, been to the NBA Finals twice. They only have one first round loss since Tatum joined the team. That was, of course, Brooklyn in 2021 when they got destroyed in that series and got, well, in 5 games. They lost. They did win one where I think he had a 50-point game, 50-point game. So they won one game, but otherwise they were completely outclassed and got their revenge the following year in 2022 by sweeping Brooklyn out the playoffs. But this is a guy who has lived in the postseason, and he does everything for Boston. Everything. This is a definition of a two-way player. Before he got hurt, he was playing one of his most complete playoff games that he's ever played. And he's had some great, despite the narrative, he's had some great playoff games. Like despite the narrative that comes with them, for whatever reason, people don't like Jason Tatum. I don't quite understand it, but it is what it is. So this guy, like this injury, again, if you're in the Eastern Conference, like Boston is cooked next year. They're absolutely cooked for next year. They will be either maybe they'll probably be in a lottery next year. And I like, this could impact Giannis's decision to stay in the East versus going to the West. The Eastern Conference next year is probably, especially up at the top, is wide open. If I'm Cleveland, if I'm Orlando, Indiana and Knicks, those teams, and whoever Giannis lands with, if Giannis lands with somebody like I don't know, like Toronto, I don't, who knows? Like it opens up so many possibilities for the East. I don't again, I don't think that most people understand how much of how impactful this injury will be moving forward. Um, Again, next year, I he will not. I will be shocked if he plays next year. They'll take their time with him. The good news is he's 27 years old, so you know, like modern medicine, young player. Even though he has close to 25,000 minutes regular season playoffs, more than any other player in their first 8 seasons. Um, so he has that going for him in terms of his age, but Boston's going to have a number of questions as far as they, this is going to, they will not be anywhere near the team that they were as far as talent goes. They're going to take some hits. Um, they're an older team. They already were an aging team. Quiet as kept. Horford, Porzingis is an old 30. Drew Holiday, 35 years old. Um, so they already had like the average age was 28 as is. I mean, Jalen Brown's 29. Um, so they already were going to probably lose a couple of those guys, one or two of those guys anyway. And if you're the owner of the team, the new ownership, you're not paying $500 million for a team that could probably be in the lottery. They definitely won't go anywhere near over the luxury tax into the second apron. Well, they are in the second apron. But they're definitely not going to pay. They're definitely not going to overpay guys or keep guys just for the sake of competing in the lottery or being a 41-41 team. That's just not going to happen. I don't. They might not go all in terms of full tank mode. I don't see that. They'll go out there. They'll compete. They'll play hard with the guys that they have. Jalen Brown is still an all-star caliber player. You still. I'm assuming that's like Jalen Brown, Derek White will be on the team, or Derek White could be moved. I don't know. You know, couple of those guys, like I said, at least two of those guys will be gone off that team next year. And again, this opens if there's a time if you root for a team in the Eastern Conference that is close to that's a playoff team that's for like I said for Orlando, for New York Knicks, for Indiana Pacers. This is your time right now, right here, right now, before Boston resets their franchise. I don't we don't know what Jason Tatum what this looks like moving forward, how he will come back. Everybody's different. Again, I can't compare him to Durant. I can't compare him to Kobe Bryant. I can't compare him to some of these guys, some of the guys that this has happened to because they were at completely different stages of their careers, age wise. Now, Klay Thompson is one that people are trying to make the comparisons to. He's flat out a better player than Klay Thompson. With all due respect to Klay Thompson, he's a better player than Klay Thompson. So, and this happened, he was younger similar in terms of amount of minutes, but he's younger than Klay Thompson was when this happened. Um, but this is an injury that again will just will shake the entire league. Like this is that made there were question marks about Boston even with him coming with if before he even got hurt. There were question marks. And here's the bottom line: if you're trying to win a championship in the NBA right now, if this has taught you anything, and you know there are right now there are legitimately what 4 teams that can win it, right? Or 5 at the most. Indiana, New York, Minnesota, OKC, and for respect's sake, I'll say Denver. Even though I don't have much confidence, but out of respect for Joker, I'll leave Denver in that conversation. If you're OKC, if you're Indiana, the time is right now. If you're OKC, it is absolutely this year. It's now. Like what did Apollo Creed say in Rocky 3? There is no tomorrow. You can no longer play with these injuries coming up, and these injuries have been piling up for all-star players over the last half decade to a decade. You just don't know. And with this second apron, with this luxury tax in the second apron, there's no such thing as a 5-year window anymore. I think I really believe you get 2 to 3 years. The Boston thing was a 2-year thing. That's why it was so important for them to win a championship last year. Last year they had to win it because, by the way, I never thought that Boston was going to win it this year. Now again, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that Knicks were going to beat them, that they were going to lose to the Knicks. Absolutely not. Coming to the playoffs. Well, I never thought that the reason why I didn't think Boston was going to win it, I didn't think Porzingis was going to physically hold up, and I kind of was right because Porzingis has been awful in the playoffs, and he has looked like a shell of himself. Like Boston, even if Tatum doesn't get hurt, Boston probably still would have lost this series. They still would have lost this series, and even if they would somehow came back and won in Game 7, how much would they have left for Indiana, or how much would they have left for a possible OKC or Minnesota, somebody like that? Like Boston was not winning a championship this year. They were not. They were not going to win a championship this year. They like Porzingis is not the same. Is not is physically shot right now. Jaylen Brown's knee is in bad shape. You have an age with Holiday and Al Horford. Like so, last year was their year, and credit to them, they took advantage of it. So you get about a 2 to 3 year window. Like I'm telling you, if you're Minnesota, if you're OKC, the Knicks, Indiana, the time is now. Or again, nobody. If Denver's won their championship, if they don't win it, I don't think. And even if you're Denver, you don't know what that team is going to look like next year moving forward. Like they haven't been big spenders, so and they don't have a lot of flexibility to improve the team. They're going to have to hope that some of those young guys, Watson and Strawther, get better, and Pickett. They're going to have to really be banking on their younger players, Christian Brown included, just get better. There's not a lot of movement for them to add to their roster. Now is the time. Minnesota, now. It is now. It could be your best chance if you're the Knicks, Minnesota. I won't say this will be Oklahoma City's best chance because they are so well positioned and they have a young team. But you just never know. Like injuries happen. You never know. You never know what can happen from year to year. And today's NBA, if you have a chance to win the title, if you have a chance to win the title, you gotta go all in and you gotta play. You have to play it as if this is going to be our only shot. You really do. You really do right now. Again, I know that people, I know after Boston won last year, there was dynasty talk and there was all like, who's going to stop this team? There was like, I'm telling you, this was, could they win? Could they win back to back? Could they three-peat? This was the kind of talk that you heard after last year. I'm telling you. And it, It can go from you go from hospital dynasty to lottery. That's how fast life can move in the NBA. As far as the Knicks goes, you have to give the Knicks all the credit in the world. They've been tougher than Boston. That was a hell of a bounce back coming off an ass whooping on Saturday, which I thought, I'm telling you right now, after that game three loss, I didn't think the Knicks were going to win another game in this series. I thought it was going to be 4-2. I thought that those two first games that they beat Boston were flukes. Boston eventually was going to got their offense going, which they did in game three. And they played out offensively, Boston played well too in game four. But the Knicks exploded, of course, in game four with offensively having their best. I thought the best Knicks performance of the entire postseason. Knicks didn't play well against Detroit. They took advantage of Detroit's youth, and Detroit made a number of mistakes, and they lost. They won those games close. Like three of those four games they won against Detroit were like by 3 points or less. So that was a very closely contested series, and they really didn't play they didn't quit themselves well against Detroit. But what the Knicks are and what the Knicks are and what you cannot take away from is how mentally tough they are. They are a very tough team, especially in the fourth quarter in these clutch games. Bridges has had some big quarters, some big fourth quarters in this series. I think he has as many clutch points, fourth quarter points as he does. Um, as he almost has outscored his fourth quarter scoring has almost outscored the rest of the quarters but combined. So he's been great in the fourth quarter. And last night, against on Monday, you got a complete performance by the Knicks, especially in that second half. They dominated in that second half, shot the lights out, and did whatever they wanted to do offensively against Boston. Again, if you're the Knicks tonight, you're going to win this series. Boston's not coming. Boston, there's no way Boston can win 3 straight games, even with home court advantage. But you don't want to mess around. Like with these injuries, you don't want to play extra games. The Knicks are not. Remember, you're going to need everything, and I mean everything, all your energy, all planning, prep time, film study, scouting time. You're going to need everything against the Pacers. The Pacers are one of the deeper teams in the league. They're much deeper than the Knicks. The Knicks, don't play a lot of players. We know that. Their starters play heavy minutes. So the Knicks can't fuck around and lose this game to Boston tonight, and then it's want to close it out in Game 6 against at home. It sounds great, and I'm sure New York fans will be that building will be electric. Come Friday. You're the Knicks. You don't want there to be a Friday night. You want to be resting until this weekend. You will have home court against Indiana. Yeah, you want the next home game to be in the conference finals, not against Game 6 against a Boston team that is the epitome of a wounded animal. So the Knicks don't need to mess around tonight. They need to get this series over with and get this series over with and move on to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. Of course, tonight you have in the nightcap, you have Golden State, Minnesota. Despite the fact that they're up 3-1, I've not been impressed with Minnesota in this series at all. I really believe if Curry weren't healthy, that this probably would be a 50-50 series. The way the series has turned out, Golden State has had some chances. They had an excellent chance in Game 3. They blew their chance. I thought they blew their best chance to win in that Game 3. Game 4, Minnesota absolutely just toyed with Golden State. I know it was somewhat competitive, but they toyed with Golden State. They know they're clearly better than Golden State. The Jimmy Butler performance in Game 4 was just absolute embarrassment and disgrace. I didn't understand like how you only take 9 shots in a game with Steph Curry off the floor. I completely did not understand it. He was not aggressive at all. Again, I didn't get it. I really didn't understand it. And whatever criticism he took for it, he took a lot of the heat for it. He absolutely deserved all of it. That's an absolute inexcusable performance. You can't have John Kuminga, who's played great, taking more shots than you. If you're Jimmy Butler, you have to take 15 to 20 shots. Again, I understand Jimmy Butler is not a guy who is a high volume scorer. He's been efficient. He's not a guy who likes to who's going to take 30 shots or 25, 30 shots. I get what type of player Jimmy Butler is, and he's an excellent passer, playmaker. He can create offense for others. I get it, but you just got to read. You got to read it. You got to read the writing on the wall, the tea leaves. There's no Steph Curry. You again, that is a game where you had a chance to put some serious pressure on Minnesota. And who knows? Maybe Steph, they win that game 2-2. Steph Curry, maybe we don't know which version of Steph Curry that we would be getting, but it would have opened up the possibility for Steph Curry to get back, come back for a game six. Now that's not going to happen. I fully expect Minnesota to close out tonight. Um, they certainly want to be well rested for a possible showdown against if a possible showdown against if OKC is to handle their business. But regardless of what happens in the OKC Denver series, if you're Minnesota, you want to get your rest as well and just get Golden State out completely out the way. We did a deep dive a couple of years ago with Robert Sapp in terms of similar to this. So deep dive is how many max players are there? Okay, and I'm not just talking about in terms of salary. I'm talking about in terms of impact, salary. One of the can you lead a team to at least the conference finals? Can you be paying a guy a super max contract, and that guy gets you to at least the conference finals? Again, we did this exercise a couple of years ago, about 2 or 3. I think it was like about 3 years ago, where we did a discussion on how many superstars were there. And a couple of guys got left off. Kawhi, Joel Embiid got left off because they were not durable enough. And despite the fact, and those guys, ever since that, have not been very much durable, though Kawhi did have an excellent postseason and finished the season strong. Joel Embiid this year was Joel Embiid. So here's my list of guys who I deem to be supermax players. And to me, again, the criteria is this. For me to pay you a supermax salary, you have to be good enough to where you can lead the team, my team, you have to be the best player on a team that can get to the conference finals. I'm not going to say you have to be, it's hard to win a championship. It's hard to win a championship. Like, Joker only has one ring. He's been the best player for now the last 3 years. Giannis was the best player for 4 or 5 years. They only have one ring apiece. So I get it's hard. The Celtics with this super team, out of all the talent that Celtics have had over the last 7 to 8 years, they're gonna have one. They're gonna have one title in this Tatum Brown era with some of the talent that they've had. They're gonna have one chip. So it's hard. The Clippers, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, didn't win a chip. Didn't win a chip together. Didn't win a chip. So it's hard to win. It's hard. It's hard to win a championship. I get it. So I think that with all the Clippers, all the talent the Clippers have had, uh, they didn't even get to the finals. The combination the combination of some of the accumulation of some of the talent that they've had over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm cool with you being the best player. You have to at least be the best player on a franchise, on a team that can get me to the conference finals. That's the criteria. Of course, durability is a criteria. Age, there are certain guys that are on this list. I prefer 30 and under, but there's one guy on this list who was the extreme case, and he is older than that. So here's the list. Joker, the first three are obvious. These are guys who are absolute supermax players. Joker, Giannis, SGA. Now, some of you are going to say, well, SGA has never been to a conference finals. I understand, but we know SGA Like SGA is talented enough to get you to a conference final, to get you to a conference finals. We're confident that SGA can be the best player on the team that can get to a conference finals. He might get to one in the next 36 hours. So SGA will be MVP this year, but there's going to be 3 straight years of him being first team All NBA. He's still what 27 years old. So he is still in the prime of his career. And a guy unselfish, makes everybody better around him. Teammates love him. Never hear any bullshit about SGA. No, never, nothing. I've heard no negative talk in regards to SGA as a leader, somebody in the locker room. Forget about on off the court stuff. He's not involved in that nonsense. So to me, the SGA is clearly a supermax player. Luka, regardless of what Nico Harrison thinks out there, is 25 years old. We've already seen him be the best player on the team that got to the NBA Finals and been in a couple conference finals. Um, Absolutely, you give Luka Doncic a supermax contract. Now, again, we understand what Luka has to do to go to that next level, to be a champion and to be an all time great, like to be in that conversation where he could possibly be one of the 15 greatest players of all time in that conversation, which he has the talent to. We had the talent to become. We understand that, but he is a supermax player. Like that's not even a debate. Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, already in his young career, has already led a team to a conference finals. Um, Now, I think Edwards' playoff, like his numbers are fine in this year's playoffs. I would like to see him, get off to quicker starts and not wait to the second half to turn it on. But there's not a question with his age, his upside. He's not even in his prime yet. He's one of the top already 7 to 8 players in the world right now, without question. You're giving that guy that is a super max player for sure. Marketability, uh, you know, marketability, the whole nine. I don't has potential to be the face of the league. I don't care whether he wants it or not. Those five: Joker, Giannis, SGA, Luka, Anthony Edwards are absolute no brainers. Stephen Curry. Now you want to say, well, Steph is what 37 years old. He's been in the league since 2009. 2009. We already know the resume. 4-time champion. Been to a bunch of NBA finals. Been to 6 NBA finals. Lost twice. 4-2 in NBA finals. Why he's still worth a supermax contract? Like, look at Golden State with him. Look at Golden State without him. There was a case that Golden State could have won this series. A strong case to be made watching this series that Golden State could have won this series and got to the conference finals had Steph Curry been healthy. That case can be made. So even though he's older, he's going to be probably second or third team All NBA this year. What that guy means to that franchise is priceless. And it's not. Listen, he was still a legit. The Ringer had him number 6 on their top 10 list. He's still, if you don't even have him that high, you can't have him out. There's no way you can have him outside the top 10 players. He is still a top 10 player in this league, even though he's not what he once was. And there has been some slippage, but Steph Curry is still, to me, without question, a super max player for the value that he has for that franchise and for the fact that, again, Golden State, they get in the playoffs, they win a series, they win a series, and again, unfortunately for them, he gets hurt in game 1. Who knows what could have happened against the Timberwolves? And finally, Jason Tatum. Of course, Jason Tatum already received a supermax contract, but again, you're talking about a complete player. You're talking about a guy who has done nothing but win. Now, here's an interesting hypothetical. It's a very interesting question. I have to put Tatum on this list of guys that were worthy of a supermax. All these guys have received Joker, Giannis, SGA. All these guys have received, 4 supermax contracts. All these guys have received supermax contracts. All these guys have received Joker, Giannis, SGA. All these guys have received supermax contracts. 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 All these gu super max contracts. Some of them have received the max, the ultra max contract in uh, Joker, Giannis, and Steph Curry. Here's the question about Tatum, and I don't even know the answer to it. But let's say hypothetically speaking that it would have been this year that he was up for the Supermax. He got paid last summer, of course, signed a $314 million contract in 2020, the summer of 2024. That's hypothetically speaking, that contract would have been that he was up for a Supermax for this summer. Coming off this injury, do you give him a Supermax deal? And I would have to say more than likely, yes. This is not Kobe Bryant at age, 30. Kobe Bryant was 34 and he got the $52 million for 2 years, where I think it was like 52 for 2 years. This you probably have to give him that money. Like you probably would have to give him that Superman, even if you, even yeah, you probably would. Or I mean, someone would give it to him. Like somebody even come off his Achilles, like he would get you probably would have to give someone would give him a max contract at 27 years old, even coming off this injury. There's always all it takes is one. So there's the list of guys that I think are absolute super max players. Joker, Giannis, SGA, Luka, Anthony Edwards, Stephen Curry, Jason Tatum. So what? That's one, two, three, four, five, six. There's only six. So six guys. Six. There are only six guys who I feel like are super max players. Six. Kawhi at this stage in his career, no. LeBron at this stage in his career, no. Forget about Wembanyama. Oh, let me add him to that list because I absolutely would give him a supermax contract, even though I would give Wembanyama a supermax deal. So I'm gonna add Victor Wembanyama to that list. I would. I would for what he. Yeah, I would. And again, you got some guys that are possible are possible. Uh, Pablo, I think will be eventually. Bancuro, yeah, Pablo Bancuro will be eventually. I'm not think he's quite there yet, but Wembanyama for sure. I would give Wembanyama a supermax deal. So 7. That's 7 players. Anthony Davis, no, no, yeah, no, I wouldn't give to like no. There's a guy who has a chance to join that list for the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton. Now, Nick fans, I'm sorry. When I put Jalen Brunson on that list, should Jalen Brunson be on that list? True Supermax players. You know what? I gotta be fair about it. I gotta put Jalen Brunson on that list. Got to. But for when they're going to get to the conference finals, what he's meant to New York, how he has transformed that franchise. Yeah, Jalen Brunson is a Supermax player. Yes, I had to put Jalen Brunson on that list. So yeah, I had to put Jalen Brunson on that list. And again, the old list, it would have had to been a guy who I think you can get who could be the best player on a team that could win a championship or get to the finals. The league is so talented, and again, it's hard to get to the finals. It's hard to win a championship. It's hard to get to the finals. So I don't even think that's even a fair criteria anymore for having a supermax player. Like, yeah, you gotta be at least a guy who I feel like who I know could get to the finals, or get to the NBA, win a championship, or get to the finals. I say conference finals because if you get to a conference finals, then you have a chance to get to the NBA finals. Then you're right there knocking on the door. So Jalen Brunson for what? Yeah, I had to put Jalen Brunson on the list. I had to be fair about it. He's young enough. He's been durable for the most part. I understand the height is an issue. Can be. I understand. I get it. Only 6'1". I understand it, but I got the guy has been dominant in the postseason. For the last 2 years, he's been even the year before last, even in 23. He played well in the postseason. He's always played well in the postseason. He's always shown up. So I got, let me see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, Wembanyama and Jalen Brunson. So Joker, Giannis, SGA, Luca, Anthony Edwards, Curry, Jason Tatum, Wembanyama, and Jalen Brunson. Those are, to me, the guys that are worthy of being supermax players right here in 2025. Not that many. It's not that many of them. It's not. Less is a lot less than one may think. Real thoughts. I'll bring next week. I'll bring back best of the 21st century. I'll bring back next week. I have not forgot about it. I have a great movie that I picked out that I have to watch. We'll watch and we'll talk about it next week on the best of the 21st century. I've not forgot about that. We did not cancel that segment. Real thoughts before I let you go. Talk about the NBA lottery. Of course, the Dallas Mavericks win the NBA lottery, and all hell breaks loose about conspiracy theories and the draft is rigged and draft lottery being rigged, so on and so on, blah, blah, blah. We've heard this before. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I'll say. First of all, we've had 7 straight years of the team with the worst record and the best odds of not getting the number one pick. I love it. All I heard this year, especially in March, was how shitty you had a number of bad basketball games because you had a number of teams tanking. Okay. Charlotte, Washington, Brooklyn. I mean, teams not even hiding the fact, or even remotely trying to hide the fact that they were trying to tank for the number one pick. And the value of the number one pick in the NBA has grown to I think an all time level. The number one pick in the NBA is worth more than any other number one pick in any other sport, I believe. Because there's such a drop off after the number one pick. There's such a drop off, and you look at the last. I'm give you like the last 7 number one picks. Now, Joshua Ricochet, we understand that this draft was not the strongest draft. We get it. Okay, that was a rare year. 23, Wembanyama. 22, Pablo Banchero. 21, Cade Cunningham. 20, Anthony Edwards. 19, Zion Williamson. Okay. All of those guys have either will be all NBA or all-star caliber players. I love the fact that the worst team with the worst record did not get the number one pick. I think that we look at the draft lottery, we look at the order of the draft lottery. Dallas, San Antonio, the Sixers. None of those teams coming into the season were trying to tank. Okay, all those teams had horrible injury luck, misfortune, horrible. The teams that are trying to tank were clearly trying to tank. Charlotte, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, New Orleans. I'm fine with the fact that they did not get the number one pick. I really am. And I don't listen. I don't. There's no solution to. There's no. I don't have a. I don't have a solution to avoiding tanking. But I know a couple of things that will have teams thinking less, having second thoughts. Is number one. I feel like I thought about this today. I feel like if you win the draft lottery with the number one pick, you should be ineligible to get to win another draft lottery for at least 5 years. That means, okay, you go back on the history of the draft lottery, of the draft, recent drafts in the last 10 years. That means you don't have a situation in 2011, right? Cleveland Cavaliers won the number one pick. They drafted Kyrie Irving. They end up winning the draft lottery they ended up having a stretch of 3 draft lotteries in 4 years. They won it in 2011, 13, and 14. That wouldn't exist. That couldn't be possible. So that like that after you win it with Kyrie Irving, you're not eligible Cleveland until 2016. The Sixers, same thing. The Sixers happened. The Sixers similar in 2016, 2017. They get Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz. Those did not work out, especially the Markelle Fultz one. Ben Simmons, we thought had some All-Star years. We thought was going to be a top player in this league, and we know what happened with that. So Sixers win it in 2016. They're not eligible till 2021. So if you win the draft lottery with the number one pick, you should not be eligible for a minimum of 5 years to win another draft lottery. Now, would that discourage because there have been a number of teams, frankly, that have lived in the draft lottery. I mean, you look at how many years like have Charlotte, Utah, the Wizards, New Orleans, Chicago. It's basically, up until recently, Sacramento used to live in it up until recently. But it's basically been you've had you had the same 3 or 4 teams that have been in the draft lottery every single year. Like I said, Utah, Washington, New Orleans, Brooklyn, and now Toronto. Toronto, has been bad the last 3 years. But especially Utah, Washington, and New Orleans, Charlotte, Utah, and Washington. And New Orleans. Well, at least New Orleans had a playoff season a couple of years ago. But Charlotte, Utah, and Washington, I mean, they should be paying rent in the draft lottery. I'm sorry. I'm not shedding any tears for those teams not getting the number one pick, or not, let alone, and not finishing it, not getting the number one pick, or not getting the top 3 pick. I'm not. I have that, to me, again, you can't have it both ways here. We can't complain. On one hand, you want to complain about tanking. You want to complain about tanking, and it's a bad product for the fans. But then on the other hand, you want to say, well, the draft is rigged. Well, can't have it all. If the draft was rigged and I don't think the draft is rigged. I never thought it was rigged. I just don't believe it. But if the draft was rigged so that Charlotte, Utah, and Washington did not get the number one pick, then I'm all for that. Because they didn't deserve it. They don't deserve it. They've been tanking forever. They've been poorly run forever. If you are in the draft lottery year in and year out, it doesn't mean you're unlucky. That means you're just a horribly run franchise. San Antonio was unlucky this year. Dallas, again, was a little bit both, poorly ran and very unlucky for the most part. Brooklyn has been poorly ran the last 4 or 5 years. Toronto has been poorly ran the last 3 or 4 years. Pure and simple. So, again, one change I would make, again, if you win the draft lottery, you are eligible to win it again for at least 5 years. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your week. So long.